You may also stream online through our website, www.glendaleca.gov, by scrolling all the way to the bottom of the web page and selecting live streaming, which is the third icon from the left. For public comments and questions during the meeting, call 818-937-8100. I hope it's on the screen. I can see from here, but please do not call in advance of the agenda item. May I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Brotman,
Here.
Devine,
Here.
Kasakian, Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Agajanian.
Present. For the housing, I guess, no, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Housing, roll call.
Housing members Agajanian,
Present.
Brotman,
Present.
Kasakian, Najarian,
Here.
Farazian,
Here.
Chair Devine.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jimian. What's next, please?
The agenda for the Tuesday, August 4th, 2020 joint public meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority was posted on Tuesday, July 28th, 2020 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What's next, please?
One would be Community Service and Parks regarding the City of Glendale 2020 Homeless Point in Time Count Report. A, City Council motion to note and file the City of Glendale's 2020 Homeless Count and Survey Report. B, Housing Authority motion to note and file the City of Glendale's 2020 Homeless Count and Survey Report.
Thank you. Ms. Yasmin Beers.
Yes, Mayor Agajanian, members of the City Council, Chair Devine, members of the Housing Authority. Today we're here to provide you with an update on the 2020 homeless count. As you know, this happens on an annual basis. And here to provide you with a report is Yvette Samvelian, who is our Community Services Manager in our Parks Department. With that, Yvette.
Ms. Samuelian.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Agajanian, members of the City Council. Good afternoon, Chair Devine, members of the Housing Authority and City staff. As Ms. Beers indicated, today we're here to present before you the 2020 homeless count results for the City of Glendale. We have the PowerPoint available for you, and I will give you some details regarding the report. As many of you may know, that City of Glendale has been managing homeless programs since 1996 in the City of Glendale. Part of the requirements for the city to manage and continue to receive funding nationally and compete for those funds, the City of Glendale must conduct what's called a needs assessment, and that needs assessment happens one night in the City of Glendale with the collaboration of many nonprofit service agencies, volunteer city staff, Glendale Police Department. Why do we need to count our homeless folks in the city, as we can sometimes see them in the community? We have agencies providing services. One of the requirements for city to continue to compete nationally for the dollars is to be able to submit reports to federal government that indicates how many people we have in the City of Glendale, what type of resources we have in the City of Glendale. So with regards to who is counted in the city, there are specific regulations and requirements by HUD. There are two categories. One is the unsheltered population, and those are individuals or families who do not have any place to stay as their nighttime resident. And these are folks that are staying on the streets, in cars, potentially in parking lots of buildings, bus or car stations, anywhere that's unsheltered on the streets in the city. We also have to count folks that are in the sheltered population, and these are individuals or families that are placed in different components. So City of Glendale has several emergency shelter programs that is operated through Essentia and YWCA. We have several transitional housing programs. These are temporary programs for up to 12 months for individuals and families, and Safe Haven is another component. Currently, City of Glendale does not have a Safe Haven component programming in the city. Next slide, please.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Why we don't have Safe Haven? I am baffled. What's Safe Haven anyway?
Mayor Agajanian, members of council and housing authority, Safe Haven is a low tolerance, high risk program where folks that can come into the shelter high, potentially, or drunk, and we would allow for those types of behaviors. In the city of Glendale, we don't have that type of programming. All of our programs are to support individuals who are in, for example, a detox program. A safe haven is a usual component where we just open a shelter site and everybody can come in and go as they please. And that type of programming is not very successful in getting folks out of homelessness into next level housing. That is one of the eligible components for HUD to count as people in being homeless, but since we don't have it, we are not counting those individuals. Specifically, I apologize, there's a error on this PowerPoint. The comparison from 2019 versus 2020, not 1919, my apologies. City of Glendale reduced homelessness by 30% in the city of Glendale. We had counted on that one night in January when we went out from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. We counted 169 unduplicated individuals on the streets. These are folks that our volunteers and staff continue to survey and ask questions about their homeless status, compared to 243 in last year. Next slide, please. Some of the statistics and demographic information that we do report with regards to the homeless populations for household types is adults versus families with children, unaccompanied individuals. Specifically for the 2020 homeless count, we had identified that we have about 104 persons that were identified are individuals without children. So 35% decrease from last year. And then we had about 65 individuals were persons with children in families. So 19% decrease from last year. Later on during this presentation, I can discuss some of the impacts of our new programs and the reduction of homelessness in the subpopulation. Next slide, please. Specifically in the city of Glendale, we do serve dominantly male population. We pretty much particularly serve about a large portion of white population, and the next largest population is our African American population, and then multi-race in the city of Glendale. Part of the white population, about 6% of that is the Armenian community with regards to folks experiencing homelessness in the city from January to present demographic details. Next slide, please. With regards to age demographics, this is a critical report to HUD as we need to determine what type of programs to develop, whether it's for families or youth or seniors of aging population. We had identified that we have population that are aging, and between 55 to 65, we have about 48 people experiencing homelessness in the city of Glendale, both in shelter and unsheltered. From the homeless count. We have 35 people that are first-time homeless in the city of Glendale that are senior population as a result of different challenges such as illnesses, rent increases, so on and so forth. Next slide, please.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
because there is something in the report which I don't see here. But before I go there, when you say 0 to 18, they are accompanied by parents. They are not just by themselves.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the 18 and under are accompanied by an adult parent. We do identify separately because the homeless count report requires for us to identify any children and if we have any emancipated youth, which we particularly don't have in terms of Glendale homeless from our last count.
I want you to go to the report, not this which you brought today, but the report that was given to council members on page 6. Page 6 of the report, that chart actually. I don't know if you have that chart to show on this in here or not. Do we have that?
We don't have the chart
Okay.
in this
Then
PowerPoint
I will-
presentation. It's part of the attachments on the
Okay, then I
agenda.
will explain, so hopefully our viewers will understand what generally I'm doing on TV, so I'm not that bad on it. Okay, it says on 2015, there were 208 homeless count, right? In 2015, there was 208. You have that page?
Yes,
Page
sir.
6.
Yes.
Okay, then we come to 2016, there were 240, 2017 were 168. So 2016 was 240, 2017 was 168. Then jumped to 260 and 243, and then reduced or came down to 169. The way I see this, so this is like a pattern that this may go higher next year. I mean, maybe we are lucky once we say 169, which I don't know why this year is less than last year. I mean, that's a big number from 243 to 169, as we can see from 2016 to 2017. And what we have to do that this is not going to go back will be 240 or 260. How this works.
Mayor Agajanian, so I think I do have this slide in the PowerPoint presentation. Maybe we can move forward to the slide so the public can see that. Let me see if I can do that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't have that in the slide. I apologize. It's available on the website. Part of the document is on page 7 of the entire homeless count report for the public. But this is the historical data with regards to homelessness in the city of Glendale. Mayor Agajanian was mentioning the differences between each fiscal year. So the way I can explain this is managing the homeless programs for 23 years in the city is that homelessness is a regional issue, and its impact is economic. It's that folks experiencing rent burdens, folks experiencing illnesses, people losing jobs are ending up in our homeless services systems. What I can speak to specifically what happened between 2015 and the increase of 2018 is that in 2015, we had lost some funding related to homeless programs. And so that was stagnant between 2014 and 2015. What we did in 2017 is we increased our homeless funding and received additional dollars as we began implementing new programming. And there were some funds available to us from general funds, from the state and federal dollars. Between 2019 and 2020, the 243 in 2019 and 169 in 2020, the reasons for the 30% reduction from that specific year is that City of Glendale received about $2.5 million from state of California. And part of that funding, we expanded our agencies to 6 more agencies: Armenian Relief Society, Catholic Charities, YWCA of Glendale, and many more to include, to run and manage the rapid rehousing programs, which means anyone that's homeless on the streets, we did the intakes on the streets, and because we had the state and federal funding, new dollars that came into the city, we were able to use those funding to house those folks in our community. And so the reduction is mainly because we increased funding in the homeless services system by $2.5 million from last year to this year, and we implemented about 5 rapid rehousing programs that served over 50 households total. And so that's the reason why we had a reduction from 2019 and 2020. We had more money, we had more housing units, and we were able to place our homeless from the streets to housing.
I mean, so let's say 2010 was 400, now it's 169. Only because we receive more money that we have less of a homelessness in Glendale?
That's a great question, thank you. So the city of Glendale began its implementation of homeless services in 1996. In 96 is when the first funds available became for homeless programs. When we applied for dollars, every year we were eligible for maybe $200,000, $300,000. Now, from 2009 to 2020, we're eligible to apply for $3.5 million. What happened in 2010 and some of the fiscal years 11 and 13 specifically, Mayor Agajanian, we used to manage what's called the Winter Shelter Program in the city of Glendale. And that was funded by Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, but the shelter was in the city of Glendale during the winter season. And so we housed 80 additional people, up to 100 additional people for that homeless count. And therefore we had large number of homeless in this community because we hosted the Winter Shelter Program. As we began to move away from the Winter Shelter programs, specifically to implement Housing First and rapid rehousing programs, which are more specific, and we can see the results in people moving from streets to housing, our homeless numbers are less. And if I may continue with the report,
Yeah, please.
part of the report, we also included some information regarding the COVID pandemic. If I can have the next slide, please. So a couple of the changes that happened between 2019 and 2020, impacts of our changes is because our street outreach works coordinates together between our homeless police officers and our Essentia outreach team and targets the housing resources to our chronically homeless individuals. So we have reduced the chronic homeless population by particularly 50% from last year because we're no longer asking them to come to our agencies to do the intakes. We're going on the streets, we're completing the paperwork on the streets for them, then we're connecting them to case management, housing resources, and the subsidies to come along with it. Next slide, please. So with our changes in our approach, how we handle the street population, going to them instead of us asking them to come to us, we're able to look at some decreases in our subpopulation for our homeless individuals. Mental illness has been reduced in terms of the unsheltered population. We have folks using substance abuse has been decreased. Domestic violence programming has been decreased, as well as HIV and AIDS, people who are positive for HIV and AIDS. And we have targeted resources programming for the subpopulation. Next slide, please. The one change we did see from our 2019 to 2020 was our veterans population. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Why we are changing the colors? Let's look at page 10. 2019 is blue, 2020 is red, right? In page 10.
Yes, sir.
Is it slide 10?
Can you go back to
Yeah.
slide 10, please?
See, in here, it's defined, the blue is 2019, 2020 is red, right?
Correct.
Then you go to page 7.
Slide 7.
Yeah.
My apologies, Mayor Agajanian. We did switch the color combination between slide 7 and 10. We'll take a note of that for future
But
presentations.
on page 7, then blue is 2020, red is 2019. Every time you have to see which one is which. If you take the same way through, like blue to be 2019 on this report,
Thank
then
you.
I don't have to
Just,
switch all the time to red and blue to see which one is which.
they're just seeing if we're awake, Mr. Mayor.
My apologies. We'll make sure that we're consistent moving forward for future presentations.
Okay,
May I
thank you.
continue, please?
Go ahead, Yvette.
May I have next slide, please? With regards to the homeless population that are experiencing veterans, we did see an increase in the city of Glendale for folks that are experiencing homelessness who are veterans by 60%. And it's in 2019, we had 5 people. In 2020, we had 8 people who were homeless for the first time in the city of Glendale who were veterans. And some of the issues related to the veterans population is the unemployment, some chronic health conditions, and then few people, 3 of the 8 were first-time homeless in the city. Our goal with regards to the veterans population would be to continue to work with our Veterans Administration Agency and work with them on the housing vouchers through VASH that particularly serve the veterans population. Next slide, please. Specifically in homelessness in Glendale, we had identified 75 unsheltered persons in the city of Glendale on that one night. Out of 75, we had 44 homeless individuals in the city of Glendale that are from Glendale. 15 of those persons became homeless due to rent increases, 11 became homeless due to unemployment, 5 were illnesses, and 13 were other reasons. And other reasons include folks that are doubled up with families or friends are no longer able to stay in those housing units. Next slide, please. With regards to folks in the city of Glendale, the large population have been living in the city for more than 10 years, about 26 of the 44. And so what we're looking at is that folks first time experiencing homelessness in the city for those reasons. So what we will be doing moving forward is targeting homeless prevention funding to prevent homelessness in the city for folks in this community. Next slide, please.
When we say living in Glendale means they're homeless for 10 years or whatever has been written here, right? They're homeless for 10 years?
No,
When you
Mayor,
say living in Glendale means sometimes being in an apartment unit, then became homeless?
Mayor Agajanian, the 44 people were actual Glendale residents who became homeless in the city of Glendale for the first time last year.
First time.
And some of the reasons for those, if I may go back to the last slide, please, is because, previous slide, please, is because of the rent burden that people are experiencing in the city, folks losing their jobs, unemployment, properties were sold and people were evicted from their units, and illnesses. The 9 people were because they were doubled up with other family members, became homeless for the first time because the owners were not allowing additional members in those units. So 44 were brand new to homelessness in the city of Glendale. And of these 44, if I can go to next slide again, one more, please. Forward, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. My apologies. Thank you. Okay, here we go. So the folks that the folks that have became homeless in the city of Glendale, 26 of them were Glendale residents for 10 years in the city. 8 of them lived in the city of Glendale most of their life, 4 of them their entire life. So what it's showing here is that we are having people in the city of Glendale becoming homeless for the first time for multiple economic reasons. Right. I will skip through the gender details. Specifically, as I had mentioned earlier, we are serving dominantly male population. What I do like to specifically include in this report is that because we have been experiencing the pandemic and COVID-19, since March, we are seeing new people coming into Glendale as a result of the pandemic. And so we have seen 52 new individuals that were in our street outreach programs, and we have made 31 referrals from Glendale Homeless Police Department to all of the homeless services delivery programs, Sensia specifically in Glendale. And so given the pandemic crisis, we are unsure what we'll be working with in terms of general homelessness in the city for next year in January, and specifically for our resources to be targeted for the prevention population. Countywide.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
This is Dan, brother.
Yes.
You just said a minute ago. You said there were. It went fast. I didn't catch the number, but people that were coming into Glendale.
Councilmember Broadman, yes, 52 new homeless people were counted between March and June, and they were new to Glendale because of COVID. So these were folks that were either displaced from other shelters because of social distancing reasons, or have lost their apartments within the communities that they were staying at before. So these new individuals came into Glendale, and we've been working in providing services to them as they're part of our community at this moment.
And why would they be coming into Glendale because of COVID? I mean, I'm just trying to understand that the connections there.
Mostly because for homeless programs, folks go to any service agency that they feel safe, and that services are being provided rapidly and coordinated. And most often what I hear is that they feel safe at nights here in Glendale, and the services are provided quickly, and they're not lingering around for resources. And so they come around to the communities that have homeless services in the city.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's continue, please.
And just a quick note, county-wide, Glendale is part of about 400 continuums that receive the funding for homeless services. There has been a decrease about 6%, specifically in San Diego County, but most other counties have an increase. Both Glendale and Pasadena had a slight decrease in their homelessness as a result of programming. So this is just kind of sharing county-wide information and increases and decreases within the county and all of the different continuums within this county.
What's on that corner, left corner bottom? Because it's small in here and it's small there. I don't know what it has been written there.
So specifically, Los Angeles City and County, they had seen an increase from 2019 from 56,000 to 63,000. It's 13% increase. San Diego City and County saw a 6% decrease. Santa Maria, Santa Barbara saw a 5% increase. Kern County saw an 18% increase. Long Beach Continuum saw a 7% increase. Pasadena was 2.8% decrease. Riverside County was 2.6% increase. San Bernardino County, 19%. Ventura, 4% increase. Glendale, 30% reduction. And overall, there's a 10% increase among all of the continuums that are providing homeless services. So that's total of 76,000 homeless in 2019 versus 86,000 and 811 for 2020. So there was additional homeless people within the counties. And all of the counties, including Glendale, reports that while we are placing folks into housing, we're seeing new people coming on the streets due to similar reasons as in pandemic or rent challenges. Couple of the recommendations that our board has made, including the homeless continuum of care, in order to continue to provide services, we will continue to use our Measure H funding for affordable housing. We will continue to apply and use state funding, the HEAP, HAP, and CASH, which was the $2.5 million we received first round. We have applied for second round of funding, and we will continue to get additional dollars. Our goal is to end the veteran homelessness by targeting the VASH vouchers for the veterans. Obviously, we do want to have a zero tolerance policy for children sleeping on the streets in the city of Glendale and work with developing programs on that. We continue to align our programming with Housing First and just moving people from streets to housing and then providing the service delivery, and continue to work on expanding with our Glendale Police Department. And at this moment, our focus would be to also expand and continue to address those individuals that are experiencing homelessness with COVID-19 and applying for funds specifically to address that population in the city. So this is our report at this moment. Staff is asking respectfully for City Council and Housing Authority to note and file the 2020 homeless count report so that we can submit the report to Housing Urban Development, part of our funding application. If there are any questions, I can take them now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any question?
I have one question.
Yes, please.
Yes, Yvette, should we be adding then that extra 52 homeless persons to the 169 total?
Chair Devine, members of the Housing Authority City Council, the 52 is current numbers. The 169 is just that one night count. What we do report to HUD is that on any given night in January, we had 169 homeless persons. However, throughout the system from January to June, we've provided 7,000 duplicated homeless individuals with services in the city of Glendale. So those types of details are also included in our report to the federal government. This is just one point in time count.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question? Yes, Mr. Bratton.
if I might, well, it's a little hard. It went very quickly, and I think some of the information in the PowerPoint is maybe in addition to what we had in the staff report. So I'm trying to formulate my questions here, but a few things. So you believe, based on not just this homeless count, but the work that you do, Yvette, that the vast majority, would you say, of the homelessness that we see here in Glendale is economic in its origin, as opposed to originating out of drug, mental health, domestic violence, and these other primary causes?
Councilmember Brotman, in terms of City of Glendale, what we're seeing in the city, large number aren't due to economic crisis. Since March, we are seeing new folks due to the pandemic and economic crisis and the rent challenges and unemployment. However, in the City of Glendale, we have about 10% of the population that are typically our veterans who are discharged without proper services and are on the streets in this community. Domestic violence represents about 30% of the population on any point in time, so we continue to address that in the city. Drugs and mental health combined is about 40% of the population that we're serving in the City of Glendale. We also have about 10% of the folks that are just service resistant, and we provide services, but they're not willing and accepting those services that we provide, whether it's hotel stay, case management, or any services. So they continue to stay on the streets as a result of their unaddressed mental illness. So it's a mixed combination, and every time subpopulation demographics change depending on what we're dealing with and what type of funding sources we have to address those programming. Specifically, when we see that we have an increased population, let's say in the domestic violence component, then we do develop programs tailored for the domestic violence population. Same thing with veterans and vice versa, mental health or substance abuse. But we have about 20% now are at crisis of becoming homeless in the City of Glendale. With pandemic, we potentially may have more people at risk of becoming homeless in the near future. So it's sort of stay tuned until next year.
Yeah, I'm confused then, because I thought earlier, if you could go back to one of your slides earlier, I thought you were emphasizing that housing affordability is the main driver. And so that's why I asked this. And now I think you said economic reasons are not the primary driver of homelessness here?
The 44 people out of the 75 persons that we encountered as homeless in the City of Glendale, let me see if I can get the slide back up. Those individuals were impacted by rent increases. So if you're talking about this particular population, 15 of the 44 became homeless because of rent increase, and 11 were unemployed. So specifically in the 44 here that we're counting, it's economic. It's the rent increases and then unemployment, folks not being employed, becoming homeless. In general, out of the 169, we have different subpopulation in that 169. So the 75 that are just specifically unsheltered, 44 of them are economic crisis. The rest are mental illness, substance abuse, veterans status, or domestic violence.
So you're saying the 44 out of the 175 are economic? Well, not all of them, right? Because
44 out of the 75
are economic?
Right. So 15 were rent increases.
5 due to illness, 13 due to other reasons. It's hard for me to...
So 15 were rent increases in the city, 11 was unemployment, 4 were property sold and they lost their units, and 5 were illnesses. 9 people were doubled up. So essentially, the folks that are doubled up, they lose their units because they can't stay with their family members. The 15 and the 11 that are unemployed can't afford to pay their rents, or rents became so high that they didn't have enough income to pay their rents, and it became homeless in the city.
Okay, it's hard. I'm not getting a clear picture. I'm really trying to understand to what extent housing affordability is driving the homeless problem that we're seeing, and to what extent is it more fundamental issues like drug and alcohol abuse and domestic violence and mental illness? Not that these are, you can really completely untangle all of these things, because I know, they kind of feed on each other, but I'm trying to get a sense of what you think the driver is, because the housing affordability issue, as has been getting worse over the years, and I'm interested in knowing whether we think that is a major factor. And I'm not quite sure what I'm hearing.
Councilmember Brotman, rent burden in the city of Glendale for most folks is critical. All of our homeless individuals in the city who are unsheltered are on $221 income, or maybe Social Security, $800 income. These individuals are not able to afford rent in the city. The specific subpopulation that became homeless in the city for the first time were folks that were seniors on a fixed income. If one of their partners they pass away, or they're no longer with the household, single income Social Security disability folks are not able to maintain their units or housing in the city of Glendale. Those are what we're seeing that are the first time homeless are the senior population that are becoming homeless in the city of Glendale. And that's what we're seeing from our homeless count results, is that some of the new people that entered into our systems were because of income related, whether it was loss of an income from the partner or whether it was loss of an income from employment. And rent increases, given that last year we just implemented the rent moratorium and the rent, what do you call it?
Lease,
yes,
right
thank
lease?
you.
Yeah.
Yes. The rental lease program is when folks started not to increase leases. As of right now, we're seeing a lot of property owners today issuing 3-day notices to the residents in Glendale. And we need to continue to train and educate the property owners so that we don't have more people coming into homelessness the next couple of months. So rent is a big...
Issuing 3-day... I'm sorry.
The rent is a big challenge in the city of Glendale for about 15% of the population. Based on the census, 14.9% are at poverty in the city of Glendale. And so if they lose their income, they will end up in our homeless systems.
Okay, so now it sounds like you're talking about mostly economic, but earlier on when I asked the question, I thought you said, no, it's mainly domestic violence, mental illness, substance abuse. So I don't know. It's a little hard to piece it together. Okay, and you just said that a lot of landlords are issuing 3-day notices. They're not supposed to be issuing them now. We have an eviction moratorium. Is that you're hearing that a lot?
Councilmember Brotman, yes, we're seeing those documentation from our service agencies who provide the rental subsidy to the landlords, and we have to deny those expenses, part of the homeless programs. And so we've been communicating with our housing department and city attorney's office how to better educate the landlords and the community members here regarding the rent moratorium and the impacts to folks losing their homes and becoming homeless in the city.
Okay, but are we seeing the evictions are we seeing people getting evicted?
We're seeing the notices and people going through courts. I have not documented or gone through verification if people were displaced. We informed our service agencies with regards to the rent moratorium criteria and are trying to inform all of our residents, or at least those at risk, that they are not to leave their units because of the rent moratorium.
Excuse me, Mr. Garcia, you want to say something about this discussion that landlords are kicking out the tenants?
As Yvette mentioned, we get involved if there's an issue legally, but the housing department is working with landlords and letting them know what the rules are. The 3-day notices are clearly not allowed, and nobody could go to court to actually enforce that 3-day order. But when we get information that the landlord has violated the moratorium by issuing a 3-day notice, and technically that's not a violation of our moratorium. Our moratorium is on the actual eviction process. But that, that's unenforceable, the 3-day notice, and landlords are advised of that. And we get compliance when we get information from that, and housing gets right on it and lets people know they can't do that. And they're either rescinded or acknowledged as being ineffective.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, let's be clear.
Yes. Mr. Najarian.
Let's be clear that there's 3-day notices and there's 3-day notices. There's 3-day notices to pay rent or quit. Landlord cannot demand rent from a tenant if that tenant has been affected by the COVID. If that tenant has not been affected by the COVID and can't produce any sort of documentation that either their expenses went up, their childcare went up, they lost some income, then a 3-day notice is not illegal. The courts, and I'm not sure if, and there's 3-day notices for public health issue, for public safety issues, and other issues as well. So there's not a blanket moratorium on 3-day notices. With regard to the State Judicial Council, I even think they permit filings for that public safety exception as well. So there's a lot of nuances to this, and you almost have to look at each case on a case-by-case basis as to whether a 3-day notice is legally issued or not. And the 3-day notice itself is not the illegal act. The illegal act is to evict. There's a lot into that. We're sort of glossing over, 3-day notice. We're throwing that word around. We have to be really careful. I know a lot of people are watching this. I know council has asked for some clarification, and it is a really minefield with issues and exceptions and permitted activities. So I just want to raise that and throw that out there.
All right, thank you. I just have a question from Yvette. Can you go to page 12 again?
PowerPoint presentation, Mayor Najarian.
Yeah, page 12. This is 13. Okay. Cause of homelessness, and you say 15 persons due to rent increase. When we say person, it means are we talking about a single person, or this is a family? So maybe there are 4 members in that family. What it means by 15 persons?
These are individuals. So person, individual, not a family.
Okay. So no family is in bad shape as described here, 44 out of the 75 unsheltered, they all are single people.
That's correct. We did not have any unsheltered families for our homeless count. So this is unsheltered individuals. So 44 of the 75, all single individuals.
Okay, thank you. Is there any question from Ms. Anvelia? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Broughton.
I just want to ask, make a comment, ask a question. The question is, Yvette, what discussions have we had about safe parking? Is that something that we are looking at, given, we might be seeing an upsurge because of COVID, and then, potential evictions coming down the line? Where does that stand?
Councilman Brotman, maybe I can defer that to Ms. Spears for that question.
Sure.
Ms.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
members of the City Council, Housing Chair Devine, members of the Housing Authority. At this time, we have not looked into safe parking zones based on the numbers that we have in terms of sheltered and unsheltered individuals. within the city of Glendale. We don't think that the need is there at this time. Now, those can always change down the road depending on the impacts, as stated, related to this pandemic or any other issues that may arise. But at this time, we had not anticipated looking for parking in terms of safe zones for homeless, either individuals or families.
Okay, so you're not seeing the pressing need right now, I guess is what you're saying.
Correct.
But if you did see things on the ground start to change, you would let us know, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. The other thing is somebody mentioned to me that they were concerned that some of the toilet facilities that homeless, unsheltered people were able to use in the past, they're not able to use now, like the library and maybe some other locations. I'm not quite clear. Are we seeing a problem there? And if so, have we considered any way to provide more portable toilets?
Councilwoman Brotman, City of Glendale has deployed portable toilets and washing stations since March to the public, and homeless individuals are utilizing them due to the library being closed early on and public spaces being closed. So if there's a need for a particular location, we can coordinate with that site to be able to deploy additional portable showers and washing stations.
But at this time, we have not, I'm sorry, but at this time, we have not taken any of the portable toilets and/or washing stations out of service, correct?
We have moved the Palmer Park
Correct.
one out, and
Right,
that's
but
the
that's
only
the
one. We have
only
9 locations.
Okay, great.
And did that one at Palmer Park, did that get moved to another location or did that get just taken out of service?
We moved it to a different location.
Okay. All right. I'll have, somebody was talking about a particular church where there was somebody clearly needed a toilet and was finding alternative locations. So maybe I'll just have them get in touch with you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Garcia, are we, what we do now?
Oh, I don't
It's
know. We
just
have a speaker.
two-
We have one speaker.
Oh, we have, sorry, we have calls.
That's me.
Yes. Asmik Brashian. No? So,
Thank you. Mayor, again, members of the Housing Authority. My name is Herbert Milano, and if I may, I would like to give you my observations on this particular report and some questions that I have. The first one is primarily a budgetary one. I would like to know what is the amount required per person per year to be able to house someone in need of shelter. That's the first question. And the second question is what percentage of the funds that the city is using is derived from city funds? Is it all coming from the state and federal or county, or does the city allocate any of its own internal funds for the purposes of helping to shelter the homeless? The concern that I have is that we don't seem to have any reports concerning the number of tenants at risk today and what the potential that we may have in terms of increased homelessness as a result of people being unable to pay their rent. Should not the city be allocating in its budget a significant amount in case there's an onslaught of individuals who become homeless? The concerns that I have about other projects that have been used and applied in other cities, one of them is called Shelter First, where there is no regard to the conditions of the individual, whether they're mentally ill or under substance abuse, but simply are placed in shelters, irrespective of their condition, as a way of then getting them the assistance that they need. And I was wondering if Glendale is moving along towards that type of approach. And one of those approaches is the use of motels to be able to house them. Are we fully engaging all the motel owners in participating in a program like this? The third item, the next item that I want to question is, if the claims or the information regarding the homeless individuals that claim that they were either evicted or they lost their shelter because their homes were sold, if that was actually verified, meaning independently, and if we can get more nuance to the reasons for why they actually became homeless. Anyway, several questions. And the really important one for me is how much of the city's budget is being allocated or will be allocated towards a potential onslaught of homeless persons in Glendale.
Thank you. You were breaking. I mean, I had kind of a hard time. Some of the sentences was not clear to me, but I don't know if Ms. Beers or Mr. Garcia, they want to say or answer, because usually we don't answer the questions. But however, if they would like to, I can. So we go forward.
I would go forward if Mr. Milano has very specific questions related to this report. We'd be happy to have a conversation with him related to some of the things that he has brought forward today and respond to any inquiries that he may have. I would say that this council has set aside an extensive amount of funds related prior to this pandemic, related to monthly housing subsidy programs through Measure S, as well as ongoing assistance that the council has set aside in terms of grant programs for both rental in terms of residential as well as commercial by way of Measure S as well, which are city funds. And so any other questions that he may have, we'll be able to decipher it, down the road and answer those questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ajamian, do we have any other call?
Yes, one more caller, Mayor.
Let's see.
Hosmic, you're live. Hosmic.
Hi, thank you. Sorry about that previous inconvenience. Good afternoon, Mayor Agajanian, City Council members of Glendale Housing Authority, and staff. My name is Hosmi Burushan, and on behalf of the Armenian National Committee of America Glendale Chapter, we would like to commend the city for its efforts in bringing down the amount of homeless folks in the city of Glendale. The report was extensive, and it showed that the city is working towards decreasing our homeless count. I'd like to say thank you for collecting and gathering all of that knowledge. As we all know, homelessness is a public health issue, and as stakeholders of the city, ANCA Glendale and other community organizations are working closely with this issue. We are committed to working with the city to get people off the streets and guiding them towards a quality of life that is more stable. In the coming future, we just wanted to say that we are looking forward to collaborating with the city to effectively end and prevent homelessness in the city of Glendale. And I'd like to say thank you again for your time and all the work that you do, and that we're looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Mayor, there are no many callers.
Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Broughton.
Yeah, I had a question something that from what Mr. Milano said reminded me to ask. Can we get, I don't know if Mr. Blanikian is there to give an update, or maybe
He's listening.
Bellian can give an update on Project Room Key, and in particular, how many individuals we still have on the waiting list that we've not been able to find hotel rooms for?
He's making his way up to the podium, Mr. Brotman. He'll be right with us.
Good afternoon, Mayor Agajanian, members of the council. We currently have 15 participants in Project Room Key, and we have another 18 participants in our own Glendale Cares hotel program. Currently on the waiting list, we do not have anyone on the waiting list. Our outreach team, Essencia's outreach team, and the police department outreach team, we're actively looking for new clients to join the program.
Okay, so if I may follow up, so we did have some people on the wait list earlier. I forget what the numbers were. I thought it was a pretty decent sized number. So have those people been housed in other programs, or what's happened to them?
We've housed a few individuals from our Glendale Cares program, and we went off the list to put them into the Glendale the hotel program. So there are a few individuals that have been housed. We've had 4 vouchers, permanent supportive housing vouchers, and we've backfilled with another 4 individuals on the waiting list.
So you're saying 15 in Project Room Key or 50?
15 in Project Room Key, 15. The county has currently a little over 50 rooms, and then they've given us 15 out of the 50. First
So
to serve.
15 and the 18 from Glendale Cares, those are all physically in Glendale?
Yes. No, we have 2 hotels that we're working with that are in East LA.
Okay, so how many of these are not in Glendale?
We have 2 hotels that are not in Glendale and 2 hotels that are in
individuals. How many of
individuals.
them?
I need to pull those numbers.
Okay, because I thought I remembered you saying that was one of our issues, is that we had space, but a lot of the individuals here in Glendale did not want to go to East LA. And we didn't have enough capacity to house them in Glendale. Is that still the case?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
It's a motion
So,
to
Mr.
notify.
Mayor.
Beers.
If there's no
Mr.
further
Mayor.
question, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
I
Najarian.
appreciate, I just want to thank Yvette for the report, Phil and everyone, Peter, everyone that's involved in this. Homelessness has been a huge issue for this country, let alone LA County. And we really seem to have knocked down our numbers significantly from last year. I'm not sure if we can get, as a council, can or should get any credit for that, or whether anyone who's on the front lines should get credit. It may just be, for the grace of God that we have less homeless on the streets, ending up in Glendale. But I do think that perhaps, to boil it down, I think it's what Yvette had pointed out, that it's that on the street registration where we go out, we locate the homeless, we find out who they are, what they need, and seek to find help for them in our different facilities. So I think it's great work. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we continue on this trend, and that the COVID issues, we saw that those 50 some COVID related that have come in since March, but let's keep our fingers crossed and just keep up the good work. We have to keep doing what we've been doing, and assume that is the best way to handle this, along with our police department, our officers. Yes, they have guns, but they are also very well trained in our teams that go out and try and reach out to the homeless. And I've spoken to several of them and understood what they do, and they're very deeply concerned. People first, their police officers second, as well as Yvette and everyone on your staff. So I think this is great news. I'm not sure we should be patting ourselves on the back, but it's still great news. The number of homeless in Glendale is down significantly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes,
Mayor?
Ms. Devine.
Yes, thank you, Yvette, for this report. And I want to join Councilmember Najarian in thanking all the volunteers who participated in that very important and arduous process of locating our homeless. I've often wondered, how do you find them? And I have been told by those who have participated in the programs, and this is kudos to our police department and I'm sure Ascensia, that they know exactly where they are. They know their locations, they even know their names. So we have people out there on the streets making this count that really care. The ARS, the ANC, the Continuum of Care Board, our shelter partners, and I thank all of them. And I remember when HUD changed us to Housing First. And that must have been in 2014, or when I think I just came on council. And they said, well, we're not going to do this sheltering, we're going to do Housing First. Or rapid rehousing. And I think a lot of us thought they must be crazy. How can we possibly do this? And here we are doing it, and you're telling us that it is successful, and it's one of the reasons that that our homeless count is as low as it is. And I also want to say that I was having a conversation on why do you think our numbers are so low here in Glendale? And the response was that our outreach teams are so adamant about trying to get them into housing. They don't want to be bothered, so they don't come to Glendale. So that is a compliment to you and to everyone that works on this. I applaud you for working on the streets. I think LA should take a lesson from Glendale. They were trying to do it the old way, but even if they have to hire more people, they have to get out there in the streets and try to get people into housing and work with them there. So thank you, and congratulations to all of your staff on a job well done. Well done. Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Broughton.
Yeah, if I might, I want to add my thanks also. And I've heard great things in the short time I've been on council about the work you do, Yvette, and the whole team. So thank you for that. It's encouraging that our numbers are lower, significantly lower. It's discouraging that the areas around us are not lower. And so it always makes you wonder whether this is a fluke or what it might be, or if the problem is just moving somewhere else. I hope that's not the case. But anyway, it's great job. I really wanted to participate in the count last year, earlier this year, and but it was actually scheduled at the same time as the Ross Moines Homeowners Association candidate forum. So we were all there and couldn't participate. But this next time, I definitely want to volunteer and see what it's really like on the ground. So please let us know when it's coming, and I want to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I have
Ms.
a
Devon?
comment to make.
Oh, yes,
So-
Ms.
Yvette, I wanted to thank you, the job you're doing. So I wanted to just join you next time when it's going to happen. So just let me know. I'll join you guys and just be there with you. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Samuelian and Mr. Bolanikian. Thank you for the report. Now, we just file, or what we do, Mr. Garcia?
Mr. Mayor, we need motions to note and file from both the council and housing authority.
Yeah, I'll move to note and file for.
Okay. Is
Can
there
I
a
do both,
second?
or I have to do one at a time?
One at a time.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Okay, for city council, Mr. Brotman is moving this item. Is there a second?
Second, Najari.
So, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brotman,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Kasakian, Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Agajanian.
Yes.
And for housing, a motion, please, to note and file.
I will move to note and file for housing.
Second. Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Roll call, please, for housing.
Authority Member Agajanian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Kasakian, Najarian,
Yes.
Parazian,
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes. Please, adjournment.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
We
Mr.
want
Mayor.
to adjourn. Is there anybody wants to?
Adjourn for council.
Okay. Is there a second for council?
Second to adjourn for council.
Adjourn for housing, please.
Second. I'll adjourn for housing.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Housing is adjourned.
Okay. City council is adjourned too. So now